I never thought a summer in Marlow, Montana, would change the way I felt about a person or the way I would feel about myself. The air was heavy with heat and pine, the kind of warmth that made your skin stick to sheets at night and your heart race at the smallest touch. That's where I first met Thayer, not in some crowded bar or loud college hallway, but in a cramped, almost claustrophobic dorm room we were forced to share for orientation. From the first night, there was an electricity in the air, subtle but impossible to ignore. I remember pretending to study, pretending to be absorbed in a book, while Thayer's laugh bounced off the walls. It was deep, contagious, and it wrapped around me in ways I didn't know a laugh could. Before we go any further, I need you, yes you, reading this right now, to do something that really matters. Like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to feel that connection with you, just as I'm about to show you the connection that changed my life. Trust me, you'll feel guilty if you skip it. And you don't want to miss what's coming next. Thayer wasn't like anyone I had met before. His name alone was unusual enough to make me look twice. But it was the way he moved, the way he lingered in the doorway, the slight arch of his brow, when he caught me staring. That made my pulse stutter. And I caught myself staring. Often. The heat of Montana sun couldn't compare to the warmth that rose in my chest every time he leaned closer, every time our fingers brushed while reaching for the same mug of coffee in the tiny shared kitchenette. It didn't take long for the tension to become unbearable. I remember one late night, sitting at my desk pretending to write an essay, while Thayer sat on his bed, scrolling through music playlists. The room smelled faintly of his cologne, something earthy, sharp, with a hint of sandalwood. I wanted to reach out, touch the curve of his jaw, the ridge of his shoulder, but I didn't. Not yet. You're quiet tonight, he said suddenly, his voice low, almost teasing, and my stomach flipped. Just tired, I replied, though my hands were trembling slightly, betraying every ounce of calm I tried to project. Thayer shifted closer, and I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, a whisper of heat that made my own pulse impossible to ignore. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in my throat, choked by desire and fear. That night, we fell asleep on opposite ends of the bed, the tension so thick it could have been cut with a knife. I'll tell you what. If you're enjoying this, don't even think about scrolling away. Hit that like button, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to feel this intensity, and leave a comment. Where are you watching from? I want to hear it. You won't regret it. Days passed, and what started as casual proximity grew into moments of accidental touch. A hand brushing against mine while passing a notebook, knees bumping under the cramped dorm desk, a lingering glance that lasted just a second too long. The air between us was electric, full of the kind of magnetic tension that made every ordinary movement feel dangerous, intimate, thrilling. And then came the night that changed everything. The dorm was silent except for the hum of the radiator and the occasional creak of the old wooden floor. Thayer was leaning back against the wall, knees drawn up, and I found myself across from him on the bed, staring at him like he was a puzzle I couldn't solve but desperately wanted to. You ever feel like we're more than this? He asked, his eyes dark in the dim light, heavy with meaning. I don't know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He moved closer, and I swear I could feel his breath on my skin, could feel the pull of something inevitable. And in that moment, something inside me gave in, the part of me that had been waiting, holding back, afraid, and I leaned in, just a tilt in my head, just close enough to feel his heart beat through the thin fabric of his shirt. The closeness was intoxicating, a wave of warmth and longing that threatened to consume me. And yet, there was no rush, no urgency beyond the steady, thrilling awareness that we had crossed some invisible line, one that could never be uncrossed. It's moments like this, I realize, that make a story worth telling, that make a connection feel eternal. And if you're still reading, still here, I want you to stay with me. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Feel the tension, the intimacy, the slow, irresistible pull of hearts and bodies yearning for one another. The space between us on that narrow dorm bed shrank until it didn't feel like space at all. It felt like a tide rising, a soft, invisible pull that had been tugging at us since the first night and was now finally cresting. Thayer's knee brushed mine. Not an accident. Not this time. He didn't move it away. His eyes stayed locked on mine, dark and uncertain, but also something else, a kind of quiet hunger. "You don't have to be scared," he murmured. "I'm not scared," I whispered, though my voice cracked like it was lying. His hand moved then, slow as summer heat, and rested on my thigh. Not gripping, just there, heavy and warm through the thin cotton of my shorts. My heart thudded against my ribs, so hard it almost hurt. Everything. The faint creak of the old floorboards, the distant sound of someone's music down the hall, the steady tick of the radiator, faded under the sound of my own pulse and the smell of his cologne. "Thayer," I said, and I don't even know if it was a warning or a plea. He shifted closer until our foreheads touched, until his breath washed over my lips. I could taste it. The mint from the gum he always chewed, the faint salt of sweat from the day. "You feel this too," he said, not a question but a statement. "I do." That broke something in both of us. His thumb stroked the inside of my thigh, slow and tentative, and I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Then he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a hard, cinematic kiss. It was soft at first, uncertain, our lips brushing like a secret we were both afraid to say out loud. But then the second brush was deeper, warmer, the press of his mouth against mine making my whole body tremble. I kissed him back. God, I kissed him back. My hands found his shoulders, then his neck, then slid up the back of his head, feeling the softness of his hair under my fingers. He made a sound against my mouth, a low, rough noise like he'd been holding all summer, and it lit me up from the inside. When we pulled back, our noses still touching, he whispered, "I've wanted to do that since the first night." "I know," I said. My voice was shaky, but it was honest. We sat there, breathing each other in, our hands still on each other like we were afraid to break contact. Outside the window, the Montana night buzzed with insects and the smell of pine. Inside, the room smelled like a cologne, our sweat, our fear, and our want. "I don't know what happens after this," I admitted. "Neither do I," he said, and his thumb traced a slow line along my jaw. "But right now, I don't care." He kissed me again, deeper this time, and I let him pull me into his lap. The movement made my pulse trip over itself. My thighs straddled his, the heat of him seeping through my shorts, through my skin, everywhere at once. This wasn't a quick hookup. Wasn't just a summer fling. It was something deeper, heavier, something that felt like it could break us open. We stayed like that for a long time, kissing, touching, breathing, our foreheads pressed together. No rush, no script, just a slow, deliberate discovery of a line we'd both been afraid to cross. When his hand slid up my back, under my shirt, his palms were warm and careful, like he was memorizing the shape of me. My head dropped onto his shoulder, and he kissed the spot just below my ear. "I don't want to hurt you," he murmured. "You're not," I said. "You're making me feel alive." His breath hitched at that. His arms tightened just slightly around my waist, and for a second it felt like the whole world outside that dorm had disappeared. His lips traced down my jaw, warm and careful, and every nerve in my body lit up. My hands gripped his shoulders, not to push him away, but to anchor myself, to keep from floating out of my own skin. "There?" I breathed, but the word broke into a soft sound when his mouth found the base of my throat. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against my skin. "I don't want you to." That was all it took. His hand slid under my shirt, palms flat against my back, pulling me closer. The heat of him seeped through me until it felt like we were burning in the sticky Montana night. Our mouths found each other again, desperate this time. His kiss tasted of mint and want and something I didn't have a name for yet. I wanted to drown in it, lose myself completely. Clothes came off slowly, almost clumsily in the cramped space of the dorm room. My shirt first, then his toss to the floor, and suddenly there was skin against skin. The contact stole my breath. His chest was warm, his heartbeat thundering under my palm, echoing my own. "God, you're beautiful," he said, voice rough, almost surprised. No one had ever said that to me like that before. Not like it was a truth, not like it was sacred. My throat tightened, and I kissed him harder, because I didn't know how else to handle the weight of it. The thrum of the radiator, the faint hum of the summer night outside, the creak of the old bed, all of it blurred as his hands explored me, reverent and greedy at once. Every touch, every brush of his fingers, carved a memory into me I knew I would never forget. We moved together, fumbling and laughing softly when elbows bumped, then groaning when our bodies aligned just right. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was messy and breathless and filled with whispered names and gasped pleas. When it finally happened, when we gave in fully, it wasn't just physical. It was more than that. It was an undoing, a release I didn't know I'd been holding back my whole life. His hands held me steady, his forehead pressed against mine, his voice breaking as he whispered my name. And I held on to him like if I let go, the moment would vanish. We collapsed together after, tangled in sweat-damp sheets, the dorm room heavy with the scent of sex and sandalwood. My head rested against his chest, his fingers drawing slow circles on my arm. "Do you regret it?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Thayer tilted my chin up and kissed me, soft and lingering. "No," he said. "Do you?" Not for a second. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was warm, alive, a shared secret wrapped around us like a blanket. Outside, the Montana summer buzzed on. Inside, in that cramped little dorm, I knew something had changed, not just between us, but inside me, because that was the night I stopped being afraid of what I wanted. And that was the night I realized love doesn't wait for permission. It just happens,